Now we're going to focus on Uranus, not Uranus. Uranus is the seventh planet from the Sun. It's discovered in 1781 and it has a total of 27 known moons. It has a faint ring system that goes vertical. Both of these planets have a bluish color. And this is because of the methane on the planet. And remember, methane is CH4. Now, even though it's considered a gas planet or a gas giant with Jupiter and Saturn, both Uranus and Neptune have been classified as ice giants because it's so cold. Voyager 2 has observed both Uranus and Neptune. Okay, here's what Uranus looked like from the Hubble telescope. And just as a reminder, Uranus was discovered by William Herschel, the British royal astronomer, in 1781. And remember, he wanted to call it St. George's star or King George's star, and it was actually thought to be a comet at first. The name Uranus was actually proposed and used in 1850 to follow the classical mythology of Uranus being the god of the sky and the heavens. Now, just like Venus, Uranus spins backwards. It spins in a retrograde motion. Now, moving off into Neptune, we said it has this bluish color because of the methane. Neptune is the eighth planet from the Sun, if we're not including Sirius. It's discovered in 1846 and it has 13 known moons. Neptune is also classified as an ice giant. Even though it's darker than Uranus, it does have some faint ring systems. Now, the name Neptune is described from the god of water and the sea, the Roman version of Poseidon. What's really interesting about Neptune is that it has dark blue and greenish bands, and it has a dark spot, which is a storm system, very similar to Jupiter's big red spot. But what's interesting about these spots is that they're gone. They have now vanished. Maybe the storm has settled. Neptune has 13 moons, and 2 of them can be seen from Earth. Now, the moon Triton is in a retrograde orbit. Remember, that goes around something. So when the moon is going around Neptune, it's going the opposite direction as the others. So we're not talking about a retrograde rotation. We're talking about a retrograde orbit. Now we're going to move to little Pluto. And Pluto has been considered a planet, not a planet, then a dwarf planet. And the reason why it's called a planet or a dwarf planet is because it's very small, but it does orbit the sun. It's not a moon or a satellite. It has more of a roundish shape, and it has not left its orbital path. It is identified as being in the Kuiper belt, which is a ring of asteroids. So there is an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, and then there's also an asteroid belt after Pluto. It was the first Kuiper belt object to be identified. Now, Pluto has a thin atmosphere of nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide, distinct layers of haze. Pluto has no ring system. Pluto does have 5 moons. One reason why it is going to be called a dwarf planet. You can see the little heart-shaped pattern there. And you can see some of the other dwarf planets, such as Makemake and Eris. These do directly orbit the sun, have a relatively round shape, and have not left their orbit. And some of them actually have moons, like Pluto,